Hey patrons, what is going on? HexLex here, and it's Monday, which means it is once again time for another one of our weekly viewer specials. I'm always especially excited to do this series when a new pack has dropped. It's really cool to see what decks you've all cooked up, but especially after a new pack has dropped, there's always these ideas floating around out there, and it's really hard for me to showcase everything that you can do in this game. That's another reason why I really like this series, because you all cook up so many cool decks and have so many awesome games that otherwise I and other people wouldn't be able to get to see if we didn't get to share them here. So if you're interested in sharing one of your replays for the viewer special, then you're going to want to head down to the description below where there's an invite link to our Discord server, the HexLexPlex. There you're going to want to enter your 9-digit player ID so that way I can see all of your publicly saved replays. Please do make sure that this number is entered correctly and that your replays are set to public so that I'm able to view them. If you could have 15 different replays, that's completely fine if you want to submit all those different games. There isn't a limit to the number of different games you can submit. The only thing I really ask is that you don't submit the same game, over and over again. And we do this every Monday, so even if we don't get around to you this week, there is always the next one and the one after that, so on and so forth. All right, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and start taking a look at some of your games. And our first duel of the video comes to us from Arcane Ape. Arcane Ape has been playing a deck and talking about it on the Discord, one that I'm fairly interested in trying, and that is going to be the Primite Fiendsmith sort of control deck, right? We saw Bestial Fiendsmith do actually very well in the last meta, so the idea here is that we're kind of using the Primite engine to help us gain some control as well. Drill Beam is an excellent card. Being able to both negate and banish any card is actually just insane. And yeah, this deck has a lot of ways to kind of control down the board in that regard. We even get to play Dominus Purge. That's really cool. I didn't realize that our deck actually fit the parameters for that, but that is awesome. I guess that explains too why we're only playing the one Bestial monster here, because I've seen some other builds that do still play more of the Bestials, but I can definitely see a world where Dominus Purge would be, you'd be a little bit more incentivized to play that. Oh, Royal SP as well, dang. Oh yeah, and this is actually kind of funny, the White Dustin. You're seeing this in a lot of these kind of Primite Fiendsmith control decks, because this is a light fiend, so there we go. And we have over here on the opponent's side, looks like 60 card branded. Oh, they have a Royal Maxi. 60 card branded, looking decently standard. There's nothing like super duper out of the ordinary here. All right, let's dive right on into this game. Yeah, there's just like so many different decks I want to try after this update. This kind of Primite Fiendsmith control deck is definitely up there as one of the decks I want to give a try, but like I said, there's just so much. I still need to do Centurion. I have some what's it called? I have some Adamantipator games already recorded, but anyway. Yeah, so Arcane Ape did mention in their little blurb that our branded opponent kind of bricked here, which is going to result in a bit more of a grindy game. We're going to start by activating Primite Roar, which they actually end up Ash Blossoming to stop us from special summoning a normal monster from our deck. So they've got a call by as well for our Fiendsmith Engraver. We're really shutting down our lines left and right over here, but we do still have the Primite Dragon Ether Barrel. Gonna use that to set the Lordly Load. We can of course then use the Lordly Load in order to add the Drill Beam. Also special summoning that Luster Dragon number 2 from our hand. There's a number of level 6 vanillas you can play actually. Looks like we're going for the Luster Dragon to be able to go into the Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. But I've seen people on like Summon to Skull if you want some more Fiend stuff to go into like Caesar. There's some options, right? Yeah, not using the Drill Beam on the Tragedy there so that we don't banish and then proc its effect. Very good. Looks like they're going to use yet another Ash Blossom as well as a Magnemite here on our Heretic Seal, but we can certainly use the Drill Beam to negate and then banish the Magnum Hut. Our opponent has demonstrated that their hand is pretty dead right now, so if we can keep it that way, that would definitely be ideal. And we do have another Ether Barrel, as well as the Fabled Lure in hand as well. So a couple of different ways we could proceed here. Gonna go for another Ether Barrel, setting the Lordly Load, doing some deck thinning. We can also reset the Drill Beam. That card is ridiculous, by the way. Like, that's just insane. Does it banish itself after it resets itself? I don't think it does. It doesn't. That's actually just insane. Alright, so we're going for the Link Spider here, and then pivoting into the SP Little Knight. Yeah, it doesn't really seem like our opponent has anything to banish in the graveyard. Oh, I think Arcane Ape actually did mention their little blurb that they simply forgot that you don't have to use an extra deck monster to make Little Knight, which is understandable. Yeah, I do stuff like that all the time, as you've seen in my build and play videos. I make little mistakes all the time, but it's all good. It's just part of playing the game. So yeah, like I said before, White Dustin being a light Fiend monster means that you can actually use it to go into Fiendsmith stuff. So here, we can simply normal summon it and link it off with the Little Knight to go into the sequence. Going for a Requiem as well, but then our opponent's going to use the Ash Blossom here. Not ideal, but we do still have the Drill Beam as well as an Imperm. Oh, and the Lordly Load. We can bring back the Lesser Dragon, if nothing else, and then pass over to our opponent. Drill Beam says we have to have a Primite or a Normal monster in hand, right? Or if you control a Normal monster or a level 5 or higher Primite monster, you don't need to reveal. Got it. Okay, makes sense. Okay, Drew Swarm and Tragedy. Gonna use the Drill Beam on the end phase on the Drew Swarm. Once again, careful not to banish the Tragedy, proccing its effect and giving our opponent the out they seem to be pretty desperately digging for. And then we can just continue to summon Ether Barrels here and set the Drill Beam. So this, I'm guessing, is like the core of Primite control, right? Simply using the Drill Beam and the Ether Barrel that recycle themselves turn after turn after turn in order to keep control of the board. That's a really cool strategy. Actually, this is really neat. I like this quite a bit. Now, is Drill Beam monsters or is it any card? It's a face-up card on the field. Okay, so we couldn't have used the end phase on the face-down card. Not that it really matters. We're just able to swing in for lethal here, but yeah, Primite control off the back of Drill Beam just being such an insanely good card. The fact that it doesn't banish itself after it resets itself, like so many spell and trap cards with that style of effect do, is just so insanely good. But yeah, there we go. There's our first game. Thank you, Arcane Ape. Let's go and take a look at the next one here. Okay, our next game comes to us from Misigi, who has actually a bunch of Memento replays. So if you're interested in checking out some Memento pre and post support, I would definitely recommend some of these replays here. But let's see, for our deck, as mentioned, we are going to be on Memento with the Fiendsmith package as well. I've only played Pure so far, so I'm very eager to see how some of these other engines work. Also, I like the droplets. It's similar, in theory, I'm assuming, to like the idea of why you play Grand Breakout, but with the option to negate stuff as well. That's cool. That's good. I like it a lot. Oh, and we can send unwanted Memento stuff that we open. That's actually really smart, because that's a problem I've had when playing the Pure version of this deck, is that sometimes you open like your one of Gaddock or something like that, and it's kind of awkward if you can't get it into the graveyard. So Droplet being able to do that a lot more efficiently on turn 2 is very nice. And then yeah, stuff like Aerial Eater and Necroquip are, you know, obviously gonna be a lot of the incentive to playing the Fiendsmith engine here. So it's Proxy F Magician too. That's cool. I haven't used this card since like Rescue Ace, but yeah, we could definitely use it to fuse here. A lot of cool stuff going on with this build. And then our opponent is actually going to be on the Blind Second Rage with Eyes of Blue OTK. The idea here being that we simply board wipe and then summon 3 blue eyes and swing in for lethal. I'm sure we've all seen this deck at one point or another, so let's see how this one plays out. They did kind of mention a little bit, but I won't read the blurb because I won't spoil it. Alright, so we're taking the first turn, and we're going first. We won the coin flip, so we don't really have the impression here that our opponent's necessarily going to be on this style of deck. One thing I will say from Siggy's little blurb here that I think is relevant is that even though we open Engraver, we opted not to use it unless interrupted. And I can definitely see that being the case, because from my own experience playing Pure Memento, one, your board can fill it pretty quickly in certain combo lines, and two, in order to be able to summon, this is actually a misplay I made, like, in a game that I showed in my Memento video, is that, yeah, if you don't control if you control a non-Memento monster, then you can't special summon the Tatsuno Toshigo, and that's a very, very important part of your combo line. So, yeah, that's definitely worth noting. Very, very good note from Siggy. If you are playing Fiendsmith Memento, you probably don't want to start with your Fiendsmith engine for that reason. Save it for when your Memento line gets disrupted and you really can't make any more plays, and then Fiendsmith will give you something to do, right? Well, it's more than just something, but you know what I mean. Alright, so we're making use of the Akiran here, being able to special summon that since our Creation King got destroyed, and then also, of course, the Memento Mictillin, able to bring back the Anguish. I never know which to say. Well, because it's Angel and Witch, right? So it'd be Anguish. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Akiran adding back that fusion. Always nice to have the Memento fusion, not just for your turn 1 combos, of course, but also going into your opponent's turn. It makes an excellent piece of disruption, being able to fuse into something like Guardian Chimera, which actually I don't remember if we're on. We don't have room in this build. No, we don't really have room in this build for the Guardian Chimera, but still not bad to have. Alright, so we got the Little Knight, Tri-Horn Dragon, as well as, well, nothing now, because my Geki just wiped our board. The Memento Mictillin will activate here, though, as well as the Akiran, so it's not like our board is just completely gone. Summoning the Akiran, and then bringing back the Creation King as well. They're going for Slash Draw. Yeah, I see they're on a little bit of a Sky Striker engine to help going second there. Slash Draw picking up a triple tack there. So again, the idea of our opponent's deck is that they wipe our board and then OTK us with 3 blue eyes. So they still need to do the wipe the board part. Mainly the monsters is what they're concerned with. But by destroying our Memento Mictillin, or sorry, by destroying our Akiran, that we get to add back the combined creation there. Looks like they're going to engage for the Afterburners, which makes sense because they're going to go Afterburners, like I said, to clear out our monsters and then take out one of our back rows. But we're chaining the Bone Party here. Bone Party is going to let us pop that Creation King and then summon an Anguish in defense mode. Anguish to add Sleepy here. They're using triple attack to draw 2. I wonder if they're digging for the Rage with Eyes of Blue. Yeah, Lightning Storm has to be used on back row here because our Anguish is in defense mode. Really, all you need to survive this OTK is just one monster in defense mode. So if we can keep this Anguish around, we should be good. We also have the Twin Dragon here as well. Even the Twin Dragon in attack mode would be enough to save us by itself, because it would be 6,200 damage it would take there instead of 9,000. But we're going to use the effect. Summoning the Dark Blade. They have another Raigeki. That's brutal. Otherwise, that Mace would have been really, really good here. Moving to battle phase. Here is the Rage with Eyes of Blue. Getting rid of their hand and entire graveyard in order to summon out the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon. And without anything on our field, it's looking like this is unfortunately probably going to be the end of us. Really cool way to showcase the opponent's OTK, unless we summon the Sleepy in defense mode, because that is a quick effect that can be used during any phase, not just the main phase. We can fusion summon another Creation King. This lets us send Gaddock to the graveyard, which lets us special summon that. Gaddock can then add back a Memento monster from the graveyard to the hand, as well as milling 3 with the Creation King. We get to bring back the Anguish, and then finally we get to use the Creation King F to pop their board. Not enough that we're just stopping their OTK, but now we are stopping them from being able to even attack at all, while still adding follow-up plays to our hand. And yeah, makes sense that our opponent would concede there, because their deck literally has nothing else to do at that point. That was the entire point of their deck. So that's a really, really cool thing about Memento, and why you definitely shouldn't be sleeping on it as a competitive deck either. You know, while the end boards sometimes might not look impressive, one, they are often very, very layered in the amounts of interaction they provide. 2, Memento has a lot of ways to gain resources on the opponent's turn. That's not just limited to adding cards from graveyard or deck to hand, but even putting new monsters and fusion summoning on the opponent's turn. Very, very good stuff. Thank you for that, Siggy. We got one more game we're going to finish off here. Let's go into that one. And our final duel for this video comes to us from Floppy Keyboard. So Floppy Keyboard has a Blue Eyes mirror match for us here. Ooh, you got the Royal Drill Beam. Nice. Very, very good. Oh, you have a Royal Spirit too. Oh, and a Royal Lena. Very, very good. So we got that, and then our opponent, I think, is going to be on another similar enough, you know, pretty by the books field. Oh, I've also run into people teching Quacky Mirror Drago. Actually, that's funny. Black Rose here as well. Interesting. 3 Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Huh. Anyway, only 2 wishes as well. Our opponent's build's a little bit weird, but I think still standard enough. So, I wanted to take a look at this mirror match because it's a particularly grindy game, and I do find occasionally that when I'm playing Blue Eyes, it feels like sometimes I don't have a lot to do in later turns of a grind game, so interested to see how we end up playing this. Alright, they're gonna... Actually, we're going second here. Okay, so, yeah, they're gonna lead with the Wishes for the Roar and then Sage. They pitched... What was it? It was, Majesty. They discarded Majesty. That's interesting. Sometimes when your opponent discards a card to activate an effect, that can actually give you information about what their hand is like, right? Because the first thing I think when I see Wishes discard Majesty is, what do the other cards in your hand have to be that you would keep the Majesty? It looks like one of them was Mausoleum, because they didn't actually activate the effect of Spirit. If you go into the log here, it went Link Summon and then activate from hand. So that would make sense if they're combo pieces. Perhaps the other cards might be hand traps that the opponent thinks are more valuable than Majesty. Perhaps in like Max C would be my guess. Okay, Roar of the Blue-Eyed was another one of them. A second copy, is that? Or is that only the first one? Okay, that was only the first one, never mind. Another combo piece. Again, makes sense why they didn't discard it. So interesting, they went for spheres instead of a second spirit. Maybe they couldn't make a second spirit dragon there, who knows, but either way, we're going to nib them during the end phase, or during the end of the main phase, rather, and then they're going to go for Magnum Hut and then end phase add an Ether Barrel. Okay. Yeah, so I'm guessing that last card in hand that's not the Ether Barrel is like a Maxi or something. Just a really, really powerful hand trap that they feel was a lot better than Majesty. Okay, so we're going for the Lordly Load F. They're going to chain the face down Dominus Purge. Gonna link off the nib with the Ether Barrel. And looks like this will be Lena. Yep. So good in the mirror match. So good in the mirror. Lena F, we can take their Maiden of Light, or of White rather, and then use the effect to place our True Light into play. Ooh, we have a Royal True Light too. I didn't even notice that in the build. True Light set Wishes, Wishes F, pitch the Blue Eyes in order to add the Roar as well as the Sage. Yeah, so our hand's looking pretty solid here. And also their card in hand is definitely not Max C. They would have used that by now. Really, I'm still wondering what it is. It's got to be some kind of hand trap, but they haven't used Ash Blossom, they haven't used Droll. Could it be Nib? We haven't done 5 summons yet. I wonder if it is a Nib. Okay, setting Lordly Load. They're going to go for True Light. We're using Called By on the Maiden. That's really, really good to do now, because it means that it'll be negated through our opponent's turn, but it won't be negated on our next turn. That was a very, very well-timed Call By there. I like that a lot. Alright, there's the Ether Barrel. Ether Barrel setting Lordly Load from deck. They set Wishes off of True Light, right? I'm pretty sure it was. Adding the Drill Beam. Yep. True Light F. We're going to chain Max C as they go to Special Summon a Blue Eyes. Okay, from the graveyard. Yep. Roar F. Oh, Roar has a graveyard F? I didn't realize Roar Confusion summoned from the graveyard. Okay, so they have a Quacky Mirror Drago in hand, but I think they top decked that. I don't think you would discard that. I don't think you would discard Majesties over that. I'm so absorbed in what their last card in hand is. I feel like I have to know at this point. It's gonna drive me crazy if this game ends and we never see it. They do get to reset the Majesty. Okay, it was another Lordly Load. So it was either Lordly Load or Drago. Which, really? You would keep... I guess it was probably Drago, right? Because Because if they opened with Lordly Load, our opponent didn't start with Primite stuff, right? On their turn 1. I don't think they did. I don't remember seeing Primite stuff from them on turn 1. No. No, they didn't. Okay, so if they had had Lordly Load, they would have activated it. That means that the last card in hand was Drago. Really? You discarded Majesty over Crocky Mirror Drago? I would not have done that. I think even with the idea that potentially Tyrant could bring the Majesties back from the graveyard, I don't think that's really something that you often plan on doing, is attacking with the Tyrant. I think it's debatable. I don't know. I definitely would have discarded the Drago, though. Okay, so we're going to go for the Drill Beam here. They have the Lordly Load in hand, so they can use that on our Lordly Load, which will both negate and banish it, stopping us from getting the search. A little annoying, but not the end of the world. We can still fire off the Wishes for Eyes of Blue. Just add Valor and Majesty here, because we already have like all of our engine. That's funny. Equipping with the Spirit Dragon from the extra deck. Normal summoning Sage, and then we're going to link off the Sage into Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Getting access to our Mausoleum here. Using the Mausoleum to extra normal the Valor here. Opponent's going to use the Majesty on True Light and Mausoleum. Now, of course, True Light getting popped means the rest of our board goes as well, but we do still have the Maiden in white to place the True Light from our graveyard. And then we can use the True Light to bring back the Blue Eyes that's in our graveyard, which will in turn revive the Maiden in white. So really, you know, when it comes to the weakness of True Light popping your board, this is a great example of how you can circumvent that. Going into a Spirit Dragon, battling over the Ether Barrel. Okay, so now if they try to reset Drill Beam, we can negate that with Spirit Dragon if we wanted to. Although it looks like we might have to go into Ultimate Spirit if they're going to try to battle over our Dragon with Blue Eyes. Although, okay, yeah, so during the standby phase, we can just negate the Ether Barrel F. So good, we still get to use that effect before we have to use a second effect. Which looks like we're doing now. They're going to chain True Light. That's... Ooh, actually, you know what? That's good. We can chain, yeah, the Majesty, pop their True Light, and then not only will it not resolve, but they won't get their Blue Eyes will get destroyed. Alright, so now they don't have really much of anything going into their turn. We have the Omni Negate in case they did have something. Bringing back our Blue Eyes off the Spirit Dragon F, which in turn lets us bring back the Maiden once again. And then we can use True Light to summon yet another Blue Eyes. Yeah, so this is actually a great example of how you can play the grind game with Blue Eyes. You know, even if you're not going into a Spirit Dragon every turn, which it sometimes does kind of feel like you have to in order to be making plays, but that's just, you know, just because it feels that way doesn't mean it's true. I know I've certainly gotten caught in that kind of mental loop before, but, you know, lest we forget, the Blue Eyes 3000 attack bodies are definitely threatening in and of themselves, and we love getting to finish with the OG Blue Eyes, with the animation, always good. Excellent. Thank you so very much. Not just to Floppy Keyboard, aka Samson, but everybody else who submitted. Even if you didn't get featured, you know, the fact that you're submitting alone is definitely excellent, because we could not do this series if we did not get submissions. So thank you everybody who, not just again everybody who got featured, but everyone who submitted as well. That's gonna do it for now. Why don't we move on to our outro? Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.